I want home runs and base hits and doubles and runs batted in from Bryce Harper. Hugh, it's interesting. So the Phillies were off last night, right? The rain out happened. And we discussed yesterday whether or not the Phillies should give him a day to just clear his head. Well, they kind of got a de facto day yesterday, right? Day off yesterday.
Yeah.
Bryce gets to
That
clear
y'all
his
said
head.
don't count.
Well, it didn't count, but it's a de facto one. Like, he got the day off. They didn't play. So now he gets to come out there today and play 2 games. And let's hope Bryce Harper starts to turn around the season because let's just be real. He has not had a good season so far. Yesterday we had a caller who said, let's not sugarcoat it. He hasn't been good. And by his standards, he's been poor, right? By Major League standards, he's been a little bit above average. But we know Bryce is a way above average player.
Yes.
He's a great player. And he hasn't lived up to that standard so far. And Hugh, we are now – it's not early. I mean, this is the quarter mark of the season.
We're like the first quarter of the season.
Done. Yeah, right. They played 40 games. So they're 1 quarter through the season. And probably the worst season of his career. And look, there's still time to turn this around. But Hugh, yesterday, Rob Thompson was on the morning show. And I want everyone to hear what he said about Bryce Harper because it gave me concern for the first time because it feels like Rob Thompson is a little bit concerned. Here's Topper yesterday on Bryce and where he's at right now.
Yeah, it's difficult, and I feel at times bad for Hart because he puts a lot of pressure on himself, and he expects so much out of himself, and he wants to lead this team and this organization and the city to a world championship, and so he's very hard on himself, and that's just who he is. And I know everybody's talking about his body language this year, but it's been like that since he's been here and since he's been in the big leagues. Really, when he struggles, it wears on him, and because he cares so much, and that's really all it is.
So that yesterday was the first time something else came into my head about Bryce. Because if it's just about at-bats and like just overtime, he's going to hit, right? Bryce Harper always hits. He's hit for 14 years in the major leagues. But the concern I have, Hugh, and why I'm starting to have real concern about the kind of season he's going to have is it's wearing on him and the pressure he's putting on himself. Hugh, where are you at on Bryce as he comes into today just well below what we normally expect? He's hitting .232 a quarter of the way through the season. Are you starting to have real concern over Bryce Harper's season?
Allow me to long talk just for
a
minute,
for it.
fellas. I think there's a lot at play here. To answer your first question, am I concerned about Bryce Harper? Not really. I think that Bryce Harper is adjusting to a position and a situation that he's never been in. And, it's funny that you bring up what Topper's talking about, how he feels bad for him and everything like this. I don't feel bad for Bryce, but I look at him and I kind of think that maybe he's pressing just a little bit because this is uncomfortable for him. Bryce Harper's been a phenom his whole life. Mm-hmm. And I would venture to think that he's never been in a position where he wasn't the tip of the spear, the focal point of a team. This year, it's different because of what Schwarbel's doing. And I think it's a little bit of that. It's a little bit of there's a little bit of a paradigm shift in leadership, if you will, in the locker room, and you're struggling a little bit. And for him, that's a place where he's never been before. Like, this is something new. Like you said, we're a quarter way through the season. There's still a lot of baseball left to be played. I think that he has enough time to turn this around, and it won't be detrimental to his season. Mm-hmm. But he has to work his way through that. And how we figure out how to do that, don't really know, Joe. Don't really know what it's going to take for him to get back to where he needs to be. We talked about probably taking a day off or something like that, or just taking a little bit of pressure off yourself. But I think there's a lot of stuff that's going on with Bryce this year that's adding to the little bit of a slump he's in. But to answer your question flat out, no, I'm not that worried about it just yet.
Yeah, I haven't been. I mean, we talked about this a couple weeks ago on our show, and at that point I wasn't concerned because he's Bryce Harper, right? Bryce Harper always hits. We've never seen Bryce Harper as a Philly, really almost ever in his career. I mean, the worst year he probably ever had when he was 23, that was 10 years ago, and that was kind of a sophomore slump or, that's
what I'm saying. So it's a lot.
It's a long time since he struggled like this, though.
Yeah, it is, and he needs to figure out. And, I know we laughed and giggled about it yesterday, but the fact that, wife's probably the pressures of being at home, probably, part of that as well. He just needs to get centered.
Well, he does, and he needs to. I think he just needs to get hot for a week so he can. Yeah. Because I think it's wearing. Like when I heard Topper yesterday say he feels bad for him, that that gave me a sense that he's watching him struggle mentally more than just physically, right? There's that part of it. The other part, and Hugh, we don't discuss this often because you look at it and you're like, well, he's not old. He's only 32. But I've often wondered, and I'm not trying to say today he's in decline, but I've wondered when a player starts at 19 years old in the big leagues, when do they start to hit a wall compared to other players? Because he's not old, right? 32 is not old for a baseball player.
Yeah.
But he's been playing full seasons in the majors since he was 19.
Yeah.
He has 7,000 plate appearances. I have started to wonder at what point for him, and I'm not saying it definitely is this year, but it might be 3 years from now. I'm wondering when for him his body starts to decline a little bit. Because most 32-year-olds in baseball, we would say, they've got 3 or 4 years left, right? They got 4 or 5 years left. I don't know. I mean, not every player has the same amount of at-bats and games on their body. He has played in the major leagues since he was 19 years old. That hits different than a guy who came up and started playing a full season when he was 24 years old. It's just different. I don't know how much of this is physical and how much is mental. If it's all mental, I think he'll get out of it. If there's some physical there, then that's a different story.
I don't think it's physical. I think most of it is mental because I think Bryce Harper is dealing with the not me's right now. And what I mean by that is, you like I said, you've been that dude your whole life.
Yep.
So when you talk about slumps, he's probably like, no, that ain't me. That's not me. And he's in that now.
But it is him right now.
That's what I'm saying. He's never been there before, Joe. Like, whenever looked like he's had a slump, he's always worked his way out of it. This is probably the longest stretch that he's had probably since he was in kindergarten or whenever he started playing baseball. So you got that going on. You got the dynamic in the locker room that's changing a little bit.
Schwarber's team?
You got the dynamic that's changing a little bit. You have the weight of the stuff that's going on at home, and it's just starting to compound on you.
Why do you keep saying that?
No, because it's true, Kyle. It's true.
Well, why is it true?
Because it's probably true. When you even though you're a professional athlete and you got all these other resources to help you, it's not put it like this, Kyle. It's not the same as if, say, Joe Schmo and his wife are having the kids and they don't have an Like, he has reasonces. I'm not saying he doesn't have resources, but it still wears on you. You still concerned about your wife.
I don't know why all of a sudden this year he's having.
But what I'm saying is it's not just one thing, Kyle. It's a bunch of different things, and it's compounded. But it's like a bunch of things. I'm talking to you like you can see me moving my hands.
Well, you were on YouTube.
Yeah. But I think it's a bunch of things. It's not just one thing. I think it's a bunch of things that's going on that's adding to the stress.
It very well might be. But for the first time yesterday, I started to have some concern about Harper in a season after hearing Topper. 215-592-9494 as Bryce comes in today hitting .232. Let's hear from Bryce recently talking about where he's at and his season so far.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm not where I want to be. Like I said, I mean, I've gone through stretches like this in my career. It's going to happen. I'll come back out of it and be totally fine. But it's just a frustrating moment, just not being able to come through and realizing I got to be better for my teammates and the fans, and they expect that. This organization expects that. So I think I hold myself to a really high standard, and my teammates do as well, and everybody else. So I gotta be better.
Well, he's right, and he knows it, and I think he will be better, but I am starting to have some concern here. 215-592-9494. That's how you hop in. Are you starting to have some real concern about Bryce Harper's season? He comes today hitting .232, and it caught my attention this weekend because he hit the home run Saturday. And Hugh, every time Bryce is in a slump, his whole career, but certainly since he got here to Philadelphia, it feels usually like he hits a home run and then he's out, right? Like he's out of it.
Yeah.
And he hit the home run Saturday, and then he was 0 for on Sunday. It didn't feel like it jump-started him the way I wanted it to. And he's had a couple of those moments because he has 7 home runs? So he's had moments where he's hit a home run or two, and I feel like, now he's going to come out of it. And then he goes 0 for 4 the next day. It's like he can't sustain when he does put it together. Kyle, where are you at on Bryce as we enter the second quarter of the season, and he's hitting .232?
So, I'm not panicking, I don't think, but I think I'm kind of where you are in that I'm starting to have a little bit of concern with it. Just normally I would say with Bryce, it's probably just a bit of a slump. He'll get out of it eventually. It's getting a little bit prolonged for me to think that it's a slump. And I'm with you. Every time you start to feel like he's about to break out of it or he hits that home run, it just doesn't happen. He reverts back to what he's been doing all season long. And I think the biggest thing is is that I can't explain exactly what's going on. I'm definitely not going to go with the with the trouble at home excuse. But like it feels like he's a little bit desperate to find the answer. It feels like Topper's becoming a little bit desperate. You can see it like on his face, and you can see it with some of his actions. I mean, like I don't want to make too much about the head shaving thing, but that to me feels like I need to do something or anything that can like change the mojo of my season, and that to me feels like an act of desperation. So that it all sort of starts to build up, and I think makes me worry a little bit about where this season's going to head for him.
And they need him. I mean, look, they're winning, Hugh, without him playing at a high level. I mean,
but we always say this team goes as Bryce goes.
Yeah, and look, they've had a really good run the last few weeks, but as this season goes along, especially let's fast forward to the playoffs, they're not going to score enough runs to win the World Series unless he hits. Yeah. I mean, they have one hitter right now that's hitting for real power, and that's Kyle Schwarber. They need a second guy, and that guy's just supposed to be and should be Bryce Harper.